Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. We are very lucky to have our guest speaker today. My name's Craig. With me in the middle, we have Josh, and on the end there, we have Selena. I'm going to get to those amazing people in just a sec, but I guess before we get started, a couple of things to note. If you have any questions at all, pop them in the chat. We'll be sure to try and get to as many of them as we can with Josh. There may be one or two questions that you ask that we will try to see if Josh is allowed to answer, but there might be some cool industry secrets that we can't get to. But before we go too far, let's just run down some of the amazing stuff Josh has done. Not only did he graduate from AIE, which is one of my favorite things, but Josh, we also have you straight out of AIE worked on The New Adventures of Figaro Foe, then Spider-Man Homecoming, Thor Ragnarok, Black Panther, Wrinkle in Time, Ant-Man and the Wasp, the TV series Happy, Spider-Man Far From Home, and I'm sure there's some cool stuff that you're currently doing that you're not allowed to mention. But I might hand over to Selena now, who will start going through some questions. But again, if you're watching and have anything, pop them in the chat. All yours, Selena.
Okay, so first of all, let's just ask a very basic question. So, what course did you do at AIE, and when did you graduate from it?
I think it was screen and media,
Yep.
and I graduated in 2014, so
Yep.
6 years ago.
Wow. And
Yeah.
ever since then, what are you working as now? And what's your job role? What's your job description?
Well, for the first couple of years, I was a junior animator, which meant I was allowed to screw up. Now I'm just an animator, so I screw up, and I'm kind of not allowed to, which kind of sucks. But, but yeah. Sorry, what was the question?
That's all right. Which studio are you currently working at?
I work at Luma. I've been there a few times. I think this might be my sixth or fifth time here. I've been working here
Okay,
since January.
sure. All right. And which other studios have you worked at besides Luma? Were you always an animator?
I've always been an animator. Um, an animator. I worked at the Mill in Adelaide and uh, ooh, a studio in Glasgow in Scotland that I can't remember at the moment.
Okay,
But yeah, so just those three.
sure. So what got you interested in animation? Like what sparked this interest? Did you find out what you were studying at AIE, or did you always kind of know that this was an area you were looking to go into career-wise?
Um, I never really had like a fairy tale animation story where I always knew that I wanted to be in it. I kind of sucked at school, and this was a subject I fell into purely through luck because I really liked the teacher, and I was just really good at it. For a beginner, I really liked it, and one day he suggested that I should make it my career, and I just haven't looked back since then.
That's good. So you're pretty much doing what you're good at, and I'm assuming you're enjoying what you're doing
Sometimes,
as well. Sometimes.
yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes as well. There's ups and downs. Today was a good day.
Definitely. I think there's definitely ups and downs to, I guess, no matter what career you're doing. You
Yeah,
mentioned
yeah.
you found out that you were really good at animation while in high school. Like, was this like a subject that you did in high school? Were there some other related subjects that you did? Maybe like multimedia, visual arts, or any other subject that you did?
Um, no, I did a course in Photoshop. That was okay, but I really liked the teacher, and he was teaching a course in 3D animation in the next semester, so I just took that purely because I liked the teacher, and
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it was really awesome.
Yeah,
Just
I
kind of like
think it's definitely yeah, important to have a good teacher teaching. It could make all the difference to whatever subject you're doing.
yeah,
So how did you
for
end up
sure.
finding out about AIE?
Well, I was studying at a high school that was just down the road from it. I'd been there a couple of times previously, actually. My mum had taken me there when I was like 11 for a holiday course,
Okay.
where I sat for a weekend in the same classroom, pretty much that. Oh no! Oh, I think this could cut out at any point. I'm at work. Um, but yeah, so my teacher suggested it to me. That's why I enrolled. I applied with a portfolio of sh not great drawings that I'd done in life drawing.
Okay.
And yeah, that was it.
So your portfolio when applying for AI, it was just traditional art. It was just like 2D drawings on paper.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I barely remember it, but there was like, yeah, it was just drawings, I think. I never really took up drawing after I got to AIE, but I was pretty into it at the time, so that's what I applied with.
Yeah, and then now you're an animator.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's how you got into AIE. But so your current studio, Luma, what was the interview process like getting into this studio? Or maybe just the interview process for animation or VFX studios in general. Is it kind of similar to what you did at AIE?
Well, the AIE interview was in person. Most interviews, pretty much all interviews I've had since then, career-wise, have been over Skype. I remember I only had one interview with Luma for the first job, and I remember being very scared. I was very shy, and my boss, Raf, he he ended up having to convince me to to come. I think they must have been pretty desperate because I was like backing out. I was like, oh, I don't know, I don't know. And he said, yeah, he just gave me some advice. He's just like, just do it. And I said, sure, but I got to ask my parents first because I was living at home, and he's never let me forget that I said that in a job interview. Yeah, so I
Wow.
moved down to Melbourne from Canberra, and my first job at Luma was super stressful. I ended up realizing that I didn't really know that much, but everyone was really supportive, uh, and yeah, I learned a lot there.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think your day-to-day basis like is? What's your kind of what do you do day to day as an animator? And for those of you in watching out there, could you just explain what an animator is? Like, is it what people think it is? Like,
What an animator is? Well, a 3D animator is it's kind of like a digital puppeteer. So you have these toys that only exist within the computer, and you're basically just like pulling the strings, trying to deceive people to think that that's a real thing, when really it's just like a bunch of pixels on a screen. But you're trying to create the illusion of life. But my
do you
day-to-day basis, uh,
like a
usually at the
typical day
moment,
at work? Yeah.
yeah, typical day at work. Well, I would kind of, just log in, get all my stuff set up, work for a little bit, but we usually have a call with my boss in the morning. He's in LA, so we have like a group Skype call with him. He would give feedback on everyone's stuff, and then I would just spend the next, like most of the day, uh, trying to hit those notes that he's given for my work. Um, I have leads. I have two leads like below the big boss, so I would go to them for feedback, and they give me feedback. Yeah.
Cool.
Okay, so
So yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, just jumping on that. So, how, when you're first given a shot, is there like a clear understanding of here's a rough idea of what we want, or is it very, this is the exact thing we want? Can you achieve that for us?
Um, it's definitely more of the latter. where they have there's a department called Previs where they will pretty much rough in what's going to take place in the shot just with a whole bunch of shitty animation. And the client generally wants the animators to match that one for one. So there's usually a pretty clear idea of what's going to happen in the shot.
Cool. And if you're allowed to talk about this, like, is the previs something like, are they a few desks up, or is that coming from somewhere else?
It's coming from somewhere else. I have no idea where it comes from.
Oh yeah, that's super interesting.
Some magic land where stuff happens.
Cool. Thanks.
So how much creative freedom do you think you have in general, like for your job?
Creative freedom. It would definitely vary between shows, between projects. So I've had shows where you generally with cartoony stuff, I've had a lot more freedom to do whatever I want, even though that'll still be storyboarded or like prevised out. And with VFX stuff, which is what I'm working with now, there's generally some creative freedom, but you have to fit the style of the show. And because it's a visual effects show, which is like on a live action background, there's very little, you have to stay within the confines of reality. So there's not a whole lot of extra stuff you can do that you can do when you're animating on a cartoony project.
Okay, cool.
If that made sense.
Yeah, for sure. So you kind of, I guess it varies from show to show, like how much creative freedom and input you get personally.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
So speaking of, I guess, the jobs you are given or some of the shows that you've worked on, what is your personal process when tackling an animation? So when given a brief or when coming up with your own thing, how would you describe your personal process?
Constantly evolving or constantly remembering stuff. I always forget basic stuff. And but basically you would rough out the idea of what's happening in the shot. So you might have a character moving from one place to one place, and you might just rough that out very, very broadly. You don't want to get too heavy on specifics because the specifics take a lot of time to do. But if you get a note that kind of just blows up that entire thing, then you've lost a whole bunch of time. So you basically want to keep it in broad strokes until the client or your boss is happy with it. And then you can move more into polishing and specifics. But that's the stuff that I forget all the time. So
Yep.
yeah.
That's super cool. Here we're showing some of your show reels, and you've worked on some really awesome films like Spider-Man: Homecoming and a lot of like the big name blockbusters. Are you able to break down maybe one of the shots for us? If I can get Craig to bring up maybe that Spider-Man shot that we have just towards the end there. Yes, that one. Yeah.
This shot.
Yes. Yeah.
That was
Short.
on Far From Home. What shot was it? Sorry.
I guess we've got that one where he's throwing the heavy boulder. I'll try and pause it very quickly, but something like that.
If you can see that.
Yeah. That was, I really liked working on that project. I think I stressed out my lead a lot. I think she said at one point that she knows when I'll like that at some point I will do the shot, but she doesn't know when. I spent a lot of time getting things wrong until that magic moment happens where I understand what she's been saying over and over again to me. But that shot was part of a sequence that Luma did. Let's see. So I animated the rock using a physics simulator. And uh, that shot right there, that's mostly hand keyed, I think. There was a teeny bit of mocap to go along with it, but for most, that's a bit of an odd one out with VFX stuff, where mostly you'll use mocap, which is a motion capture suit that someone's acted out the entire sequence in LA, somewhere in LA, and that data has been put onto a digital character that we will then start editing.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess. Are you able to talk a bit about the process of how, like, I'd imagine you're not the only animator on this movie or any movie that you work on. How do you make sure that your moving of Spider-Man is the same as how Jennifer in another country is animating Spider-Man? Is it hard to make sure that you're getting it, or is that what your leads are there for, to make sure that everyone's giving him the cool spider walk?
Well, in regards to Jennifer, she probably works for a different company. So what happens is that Marvel will package up the entire movie into a bunch of sequences that they'll then market out to a whole bunch of VFX studios like Luma. And so Luma will work on one part of the movie, and when we send our stuff to Marvel, it goes to a VFX supervisor. So they'll be in charge of looking at everyone's work across the entire film and making sure it stays in the same sort of vein as everyone else's work.
Cool, nice. And I don't have any doubts that there's probably the person there who's like, "This is a Josh shot, everyone," and like everyone from the office comes around and says like, "Yeah," and then they all high five each other. Cool.
Yeah, all the time. That happens all the time.
So how many people did it actually take to create that shot in particular? Like, I would assume you said it took many teams generally for every film. So how many people do you think it takes to make that specific shot? An estimate.
An estimate. 20. I don't know. I have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, I've literally I couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but it's quite a few people, I'd imagine. When it comes to stuff outside of animation, I probably know as much as you do. I just kind of like very tunnel vision on my part of the pipeline.
That's super interesting. So is it a case of to be at the level that you are, like a lot of you will just really focus on your area? Like, I guess, do you get to see give any feedback on the character rigs or anything like that you use, or is it very much a...
No.
Okay.
Maybe the rigs, because you're using it, sometimes you'll say, "Oh, well, it'd be cool if you could do this," but that's generally the only thing. In terms of work etiquette, I've had a couple of times where someone in another department has given me feedback on something that's not their business, and it's a little bit rude. And I've seen it happen with other people as well, and they get quite offended.
Cool. If you're right, Selena, we'll just because we probably got like just under 10 minutes left, I've got some questions that people would be keen to know.
Yeah.
I guess let's start with this one. And Marty's keen to know, what software do you use to animate? And is it the same tool that's used at every studio, or is it just the stuff you guys are using?
I've worked at studios that use 3ds Max, but for the most part, and including here, we use Maya to animate, which I think is the best one.
Cool.
Although it's still quite awful.
How do you find swapping between the software like that? When you have on your resume that you've mainly used Maya, do they care about the specific package that you used, or is it more so long as your animations look good, they'll give you the time to jump between the tools?
Yeah. I'd imagine if they're happy with your animation, and they're using a different program, they'll give you time to adjust. But generally, there's more similarities between programs than there is differences.
Yeah. Cool. Another quick one here before we throw back to Selena. We've got Glenn asking, do you guys have to leave your phones at the door as part of security? Or is it very tied down? I've heard that some people don't get access to their thumb drive, their USB ports, that kind of thing.
I think, yeah, I think we're supposed to.
You're not happening to use your
And
phone right
and
now, are you, inside the office?
no, this
No.
is a webcam.
Yeah,
I've never used my phone on work premises, and I never will.
good to know. Perfect. Thanks.
Okay, any other questions from chat? No?
Yeah, let's see. We also have this one might be a toughie to ask, but we have Maya asking, how long does it take? And I know that it's probably very dependent
Like,
on the shots that you work on, or
it's a very general question.
yeah.
I take half an hour to go to the bathroom.
Uh,
It's
so
a
I
big part
guess
of my day.
the animation process, so it can take a while. I'd imagine if you're having to get feedback from people overseas and people locally, like sometimes can there be gaps where you've worked on a shot, then you've sent it away for approval and it comes back a week later, maybe more?
Yeah, generally stuff happens like that all the time. Yeah, it depends what the client is doing. Maybe they're revisiting a sequence and they decide to cut a shot or have a different action happen in the shot. How long does it take to block out just a general shot? Maybe you'll take like 1 day to block it out, and then you just keep getting feedback from your boss, and then you'll keep improving it as you get feedback. So yeah,
Cool.
yeah, very,
No, that's awesome.
cool.
And does that feedback slowly get very granular as oh, move the finger just that little bit down, or do they not look at those tiny bits so much as just how the body mechanics or the body's moving about?
Sometimes I think sometimes the client can be quite pedantic about stuff, but yeah, it really depends on the client. I've had shows where they've just never given feedback and they've been like everything's amazing, and other shows where yeah, everything's a process.
Cool. Oh, yours, Selena?
Cool. Okay. So I'm sure a lot of people watching want to be just like you, working on these blockbusters as an animator. And obviously, as we know, we need a professional portfolio for whoever's hiring you. So personally, what do you think? Um, what kind of advice can you give someone building this portfolio? Like, how can you really highlight animation as your strength?
Well, generally, I would think an animation reel would only have animation on it. And I think you'd want to show that you understand weight more than anything else. You want to show that you understand body mechanics over acting, because the acting can come like the acting's super important and it's amazing, but no one's going to believe that your character is alive if they're walking if the weight isn't correct.
Yeah.
Like everything has to be grounded in physics for it to be believable.
Yeah. So essentially, all your characters or objects that you're animating, they have to be like very realistic and believable.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. There's got to be like a little bit of reality in everything, no matter how cartoony something is. It's got to have like
Yeah.
a teeny bit of a base.
Okay. So when you were studying at AIE, like if you remember, how were your teachers and classmates and some of the projects you've done? What was it like to study there?
What was it like to study at AIE? It was good. I enjoyed my time there. I made a whole bunch of friends. Um, I think, yeah. Yeah. Everyone was really nice at AE. It was a cool atmosphere to kind of just learn more about the entire sphere of what you can do in 3D animation, and I did lots of student projects there. A lot that I kind of cringe to look at now, because of how much of a student I was then. But it was all very fun.
Well, I think you've definitely improved a lot since you were a student. Were there a lot of like team-based projects that you have to do?
At AIE,
Yeah.
um, yeah, actually, our student project was a nightmare. I don't even think they have it on the AIE website. It was so bad. I think I might be a bad example because, but it was just, yeah, it was. I kind of, I definitely just kind of stuck to myself and did my own thing when I was there. The group project, like it's a terrible example. My year was not good. But I think I've seen other projects that have been good. I think it was just my year was an outlier.
Well, I'm sure, like, I guess it helped you learn a lot, like, how to work with the team. I think it's just definitely really important, even in the industry, just knowing how to work with different
For
people
sure.
and adhering to the same deadline and everything.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
definitely, definitely.
Cool.
yeah. So now you're an animator. So finally, where do you see yourself in 10 years? Do you still see yourself as maybe like a lead animator, leading teams? Um,
I generally I have no idea really. I just want to keep getting better. I want to keep getting better at animation. I'm sure if I keep improving that all sorts of stuff will happen, but I really just kind of stick to the day by day,
How do
especially
you?
now. I
No, sorry, I
could
guess.
die at any moment.
Yeah. How can you? What's the difference between someone who's like a junior level animator and someone who's in a lead role? Is it just developing that eye for what makes an animation piece really strong?
For sure. Yeah, definitely. I think just thinking back to when I was a junior, I really had like no idea how anything worked. And yeah, I had all sorts of wrong ideas about how things should go. And yeah, all my leads have generally got give great feedback. They've got great perspective on what needs to happen in the shot to make it work. Um, yeah, there's just a huge golf experience, I think, between a
Nice.
junior and a lead.
Cool. I guess before we get to your final questions, Selena, I'll just quickly fire off a few here. We've got
yeah.
this one from Alex asking, "What's your favorite part of your work? Like, is there a particular shot, or is there a thing that happens throughout the day where you're like, yes, this is happening?"
My favorite part of being an animator is when uh, people praise me. Uh,
Ooh.
doesn't happen very often, which is why I like it so much. Usually it's like, this isn't working, or you should try this. Sometimes I get like yeah, that was all right, Josh,
That's
and I think that makes my day.
yeah. When those meetings are short and they just say, "You did good," and then they walk on to the next person and they're getting a whole bunch of feedback.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah,
Um,
definitely. That's my favorite feeling.
and this one, I will give it a shot. I'm not really sure if you've done much of this, but do you have a process when cleaning up mocap? And I guess, first of all, do you even work with a lot of motion capture data or mainly keyframe?
Uh, I have worked with a lot of motion capture data. Generally, I think someone else cleans it up before it even gets to me. Um, but so sometimes we'll have like a whole library of actions that so we'll have like Spider-Man doing a flip, Spider-Man doing a backflip, and we might even have like 6 or 7 different types of different takes of him doing a backflip. And generally, my boss might be like, "Oh, Josh, we've assigned you this shot. We think this mocap will go well with this shot. Why don't you put it into the shot and we'll take a look." And then I might show them like a couple of different mocap takes in the context of the shot, and you'd be like, "Right, I like this one, but can you make it 200 times faster, or can you make him do like 700 flips?"
Cool.
Um,
Nice.
but
Okay,
mostly
any
it'd
more
be like, "Can
questions?
you make it slower?"
Yeah.
Any more
Sorry.
questions from the chat, Craig?
I'm conscious
Oh,
that
good.
we've probably got. We'll hold it there as we start to wrap up. I'll let you end it there.
Okay, well, as we're wrapping up, I guess your final question is, what advice would you give to someone with the same interest as you, like looking to get into animation and wanting to work on the biggest blockbusters in the film industry?
I would definitely say just like work your work your darndest. You know, you don't want to let yourself down. I hate feeling like I let myself down. So whenever I really want to do something, I make sure that um, I work as hard as I can because I don't want to look back at something
Yeah.
and be like, oh, I could have tried harder. Yeah, so just do your best.
Yeah, definitely. And then when you have that perfect shot that you've done, you can pat yourself on the back and just feel really proud. And when you go to the movies, you could be like, I did that.
That never happens.
No.
You're always like exhausted by the end of it, and you just kind of hate what you've been working on. But it's very rewarding. I really enjoy that part.
Cool.
Yeah, cool. Well, thank you so much for letting us ask you all these questions, Josh. I'm sure you're very
That's all
busy
right.
working on super secret stuff, but we really enjoy having you with us here, coming back as an alumni and being able to inspire all these people watching. Maybe they're current students, maybe they're even still in high schools, just looking to get into the industry. So thank you so much.
That's all right. I'm always happy to talk about my favorite subject, which is myself. But thank you
Perfect. Cool.
for inviting me.
Nice. Yeah.
Thank you.
See you next time. And everyone, make sure you hang about. Every Tuesdays, we'll have a whole bunch of extra talks as well. So make sure you head to the AA website to find out more. But thanks so much for tuning
Yeah.
in. Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.